Captain Jake Morrison stared out the window of his ship at the massive alien vessel floating in space. The New Horizon was a good ship, but it looked like a toy next to the alien craft. The strange ship was white and smooth, with no sharp edges. Anywhere, it looked more like a giant egg than a spaceship. "Sir, they're sending another message," said Communications Officer Lisa Murphy from her station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the excitement underneath. This was humanity's first real contact with aliens, and everyone on the crew knew they were making history. "What do they say?" Jake asked. Lisa listened to her earpiece for a moment. "They want to meet our medical officer. They keep talking about something called a medical exchange. Their translator is getting better at English." Jake nodded and pressed a button on his chair. "Dr. Carter to the bridge, please." A few minutes later, Dr. Amy Carter walked onto the bridge. She was a small woman with short brown hair and quick eyes that missed nothing. She had been the ship's doctor for 3 years, and Jake trusted her completely. "You wanted to see me, Captain?" Amy asked. "The aliens want to meet you. They're called the Zephyrians, and they seem very interested in medical stuff. They want to do some kind of exchange with us." Amy looked out at the alien ship. "What kind of exchange?" "We show them how human medicine works, and they show us theirs. They say they want to learn about different species." Amy was quiet for a moment. "It could be very useful. If their medicine is as advanced as their ship looks, we might learn things that could help millions of people back on Earth." Jake made his decision. "Set up the meeting. But Amy, be careful. We don't know anything about these aliens except that they have bigger ships than us." 2 hours later, Jake and Amy stood in the New Horizons main meeting room. The room had been cleaned until it sparkled, and the crew had set up their best medical equipment for display. Danny Walsh, one of the ship's engineers, had volunteered to help with the demonstration. Danny was young and brave, always ready to try new things. "Are you sure about this, Danny?" Amy asked him for the 3rd time. "We don't know what their equipment will do." Danny grinned. He was tall and thin, with red hair and freckles. "Doc, you've scanned me 100 times with our machines. How different can this be?" Before Amy could answer, the room filled with bright light. When the light faded, 3 aliens stood in the center of the room. Jake had seen pictures from their first video call, but seeing them in person was different. The Zephyrians were tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow softly. Their heads were larger than human heads, and their eyes were big and silver. They wore white clothes that looked like they were made of light itself. The leader stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice came from a small device on his chest. "I am Dr. Veltar, Chief Physician of the medical vessel Healing Light. We are honored to meet you." Jake stepped forward and held out his hand. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Amy Carter, our Chief Medical Officer, and Danny Walsh, who volunteered to help with our demonstration." Dr. Veltar looked at Jake's hand for a moment, then carefully reached out and shook it. His skin felt cool and smooth. "We have studied your greeting customs. We are pleased to use them." "We're excited to learn from each other," Amy said. "Our species might be very different, but we both want to help sick people get better." "Doctor." Veltar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Yes, though I must say, we are quite puzzled by human biology. From what we have observed, your species seems very fragile." "Fragile?" Danny asked. One of the other aliens stepped forward. "I am Dr. Crixina. We have been studying human medical data that you shared with us. Your bodies seem to break easily and heal slowly. Your hearts stop working after only a few minutes without oxygen. Your bones crack under pressure that would not harm most species we know." Amy frowned a little. "We might not be the strongest species, but humans are survivors. We've lived through ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We adapt." "Perhaps," Dr. Veltar said politely. Shall we begin the demonstration? We are very curious to see how you treat illness and injury with such primitive equipment. Jake didn't like the word primitive, but he kept quiet. These aliens had traveled between stars when humans were still learning to make fire. Their medicine was probably amazing. Amy brought out a medical scanner, a device about the size of a book. This is one of our basic diagnostic tools. Danny, would you mind? Danny sat down in a chair, and Amy ran the scanner over his body. The device beeped and showed numbers on a small screen. The scanner checks heart rate, blood pressure, brain activity, and other basic signs of health, Amy explained. Danny's readings are all normal for a human his age. Dr. Veltar examined the scanner with interest. Fascinating, so simple, yet functional. May we try our equipment on your volunteer? Amy looked at Jake, who nodded. Go ahead, but please be careful. Dr. Crixina brought out what looked like a crystal the size of a dinner plate. It glowed with soft blue light. This is a cellular analysis matrix. It can examine every cell in a body and detect problems that might not show symptoms for years. That sounds incredible, Amy said. Dr. Veltar held the crystal device near Danny. The blue light grew brighter. The scan will take only a few seconds and cause no discomfort. But as the light touched Danny, warning alarms suddenly started ringing throughout the ship. The lights flickered, and everyone felt a strange tingling in the air. What's happening? Jake shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Ben Clark's voice came through the communication system. Captain, we're detecting a massive electromagnetic pulse from that stellar phenomenon we passed earlier. It's affecting all our systems. The blue light from the alien device suddenly flared bright white. Danny made a small sound and fell forward in his chair. The crystal device in Dr. Crixina's hands cracked and went dark. Amy rushed to Danny and checked his pulse. Her face went white. I can't find a heartbeat. She pulled out her medical scanner and ran it over Danny's body. The device showed flat lines where there should have been signs of life. No pulse, no brain activity, no breathing. He's dead, Amy whispered. Dr. Veltar stepped back, his silver eyes wide with horror. This cannot be. Our equipment was perfectly safe. We have used it on thousands of species. Jake knelt beside Danny's still form. The young engineer's eyes were closed, and his skin was already starting to turn pale. There was no doubt about it. Danny Walsh was dead, and somehow, the alien medical device had killed him. The medical bay on the Zephyrian ship was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The walls glowed with soft white light, and strange symbols moved across them like living things. The air smelled clean, like rain after a storm. Everything was perfectly smooth and white, making the room feel more like a temple than a hospital. Danny's body lay on a table in the center of the room. The table was made of the same glowing material as the walls. Dr. Veltar and his team moved around the body with careful, precise movements. Jake watched from a corner, feeling helpless and angry. Captain Morrison, Dr. Veltar said, without looking up from his work, I must ask you again to return to your ship. What we must do here is not pleasant for those who knew the deceased. Danny was my crew member, Jake said firmly. I'm not leaving him alone with strangers, no matter how good your intentions are. Dr. Veltar's large silver eyes looked sad. As you wish. But please understand, we must learn what went wrong. If we do not, this tragedy might happen again. Jake nodded, even though his throat felt tight. On his ship, Dr. Amy Carter was dealing with angry messages from Earth Command. The first contact with aliens had become a disaster, and everyone wanted to know why. Dr. Crixina, the younger Zephyrian doctor, ran a device that looked like a glass wand over Danny's chest. The electromagnetic pulse from the stellar phenomenon should not have affected our equipment, she said. Our technology is protected against such things. Yet it clearly did affect it, said the third member of their team, an older Zephyrian named Dr. Sektar. The question is how and why. Dr. Veltar made notes on a device that projected words into the air. Begin with external examination. Record everything. The humans will want to know exactly what we find. For the next 2 hours, the alien doctors studied every part of Danny's body from the outside. They measured him, photographed him, and scanned him with devices that hummed and glowed. Jake tried not to listen as they discussed Danny like he was just an interesting specimen. The muscular structure is crude but functional, Dr. Crixena said. Much less efficient than most species we have studied. The bone density is surprisingly low, Dr. Sektar added. These creatures must be very careful not to injure themselves. Yet they survive on a planet with strong gravity, Dr. Veltar pointed out. There must be advantages to this design that we do not see. Jake clenched his fists. He wanted to tell them that Danny wasn't crude or weak. Danny had survived 3 years in deep space, fixed machines that other engineers said couldn't be fixed, and always had a joke ready when things got tough. But he stayed quiet. These doctors were trying to help, even if they didn't understand what they had lost. Meanwhile, on the New Horizon, Dr. Amy Carter sat in her office staring at test results. Lieutenant Ben Clark sat across from her, equally confused. The stellar phenomenon is like nothing we've seen before, Ben said. It's not just electromagnetic energy. It's affecting space itself in ways that don't make sense. Amy looked at readings from their sensors. The pulse hit Danny at the exact moment the alien device was scanning him. But our equipment should have protected him. Maybe the combination of their technology and the pulse created something new, Ben suggested. Something neither of us expected. Amy stood up and walked to her window. She could see the alien ship. In the distance, its smooth surface reflecting starlight. Ben, I've been Danny's doctor for 3 years. I know his body better than I know my own. Those readings I got right after the accident, they don't make sense. What do you mean? A body doesn't just stop like that. When someone dies there are stages. The heart slows down, the brain shows different patterns, the cells begin to change. But Danny's body just stopped completely all at once. Like someone flipped a switch. Ben frowned. Are you saying he might not really be dead? I'm saying I don't understand what happened to him, and until I do, I can't accept that he's gone. Back on the alien ship, Dr. Veltar was making a discovery. That puzzled him greatly. He had begun the internal examination, carefully opening Danny's chest to study his heart and lungs. What he found there made him call his colleagues over immediately. Look at this, he said, pointing to Danny's heart. With a long, thin instrument. The cellular structure is damaged, yes, but not in the way we would expect. Dr. Crixena peered closer. The damage appears to be repairing itself, but very slowly. That should be impossible in a dead organism. More than that, Dr. Sektar added, examining Danny's brain with a delicate probe. The neural pathways show signs of activity, but at a level so low, our instruments can barely detect it. It is as if the entire body has been placed in some kind of suspended state. Dr. Veltar straightened up, his expression thoughtful. In our medical experience, we have never seen anything like this. Most species, when they die, simply cease to function. Their cells begin to break down immediately. But this human cells seem to be waiting. Waiting for what? Dr. Crixena asked. I do not know. But I am beginning to suspect that human biology operates on principles we do not fully understand. Jake stepped closer to the table. What are you saying? That Danny might not be dead? Dr. Veltar looked at him with those large silver eyes. Captain Morrison, according to every test we can perform, your crew member has no heartbeat, no brain activity, and no breathing. By every definition we know, he is dead. But his body is not behaving as a dead body should. Then maybe your definitions are wrong, Jake said. Dr. Veltar was quiet for a long moment. Perhaps they are. We have studied hundreds of species across the galaxy. We thought we understood the nature of life and death. But humans may be teaching us that we have much yet to learn. The alien doctor turned back to Danny's body, but now he worked with something that looked almost like respect. We will continue our examination, but more carefully now. If there is even the smallest chance that your friend can be saved, we will find it. Jake watched the alien doctor's work, hoping against hope that somehow, impossible as it seemed, Danny Walsh might still come back to them. Dr. Veltar held the cutting tool above Danny's chest, preparing to remove the heart for detailed study. The instrument hummed with energy, its edge sharp enough to cut through the strongest materials in the galaxy. Around him, his team watched quietly as he positioned the tool for the final examination. This will tell us everything we need to know about human cardiac function, Dr. Veltar said to his colleagues. Perhaps we can learn why their hearts are so fragile compared to other species. Jake stood in the corner, his hands clenched into fists. Watching them prepare to cut into Danny felt wrong, but he knew it was necessary. If they could learn something that would prevent this from happening to other humans, then Danny's death would at least have some meaning. Dr. Crixina monitored the body's vital signs one last time. Still no change. No heartbeat, no brain activity, no cellular function above the minimum we detected earlier. By all measurements, the subject has been deceased for 6 hours and 12 minutes. Dr. Sektar prepared the preservation equipment. We will need to work quickly once the heart is removed. The tissue samples must be kept fresh for proper analysis. Dr. Veltar nodded and began to lower the cutting tool toward Danny's chest. The instrument was less than an inch away from the skin when something impossible happened. Danny's chest suddenly rose as he took a deep, loud breath. Dr. Veltar jumped backward so quickly that he dropped the cutting tool. It clattered across the floor, its energy field sparking against the walls. Dr. Crixina's monitoring equipment began beeping frantically as it detected heartbeat, brain activity, and breathing where there had been nothing moments before. Danny's eyes opened slowly, and he looked around the strange white room with confusion. He blinked several times, then sat up on the examination table, stretching his arms above his head. "Man, I feel like I've been asleep for days," Danny said with a loud yawn. "What time is it? And why does everything look so weird?" The 3 Zephyrian doctors stood, frozen in terror. Dr. Sektar's device fell from his hands and shattered on the floor. Dr. Crixina made a sound that was somewhere between a gasp and a scream. Dr. Veltar's silver eyes were so wide they seemed to take up half his face. Jake stared at Danny in shock. "Danny? Danny, are you okay?" Danny looked over at Jake and grinned. "Hey, Captain. Yeah, I'm fine. Just really tired for some reason. Did I fall asleep during the meeting? That's embarrassing." He noticed the alien doctors backing away from him. "Are they okay? They look scared." "Scared?" Dr. Veltar whispered. "You were dead. Completely dead. No heartbeat, no brain function, no cellular activity. Dead for over 6 hours." Danny laughed. "Dead? Come on, Doc. I feel great. Well, except for being hungry. I could really go for some of Cook's famous pancakes right about now." Dr. Crixina's voice shook as she spoke. "The instruments do not lie. You had no life signs. We examined your body completely. We were about to remove your heart for study." "Remove my heart?" Danny looked down at his chest, which was unmarked except for some small sensor patches. "Well, I'm glad you didn't. I'm pretty attached to it." He swung his legs over the side of the table. "Seriously though, what happened? Last thing I remember was sitting in that chair on the New Horizon, and then you guys started that scan thing." Jake pressed the communication button on his uniform. "Dr. Carter, get over here right now. Bring your medical kit. What's wrong?" Amy's voice came through the speaker. "Danny's alive." There was a long pause. "Jake, that's not funny. I'm not joking. Danny is sitting here talking to me. He's alive and he's fine. Another pause, then Amy's voice came back, tight with disbelief. I'm on my way. Dr. Veltar slowly approached Danny, his hands shaking. May I scan you again? With different equipment. Sure, Danny said cheerfully. Just don't make me fall asleep again. I've got work to do. Dr. Veltar brought out a small handheld scanner, much simpler than the crystal device that had caused the accident. He ran it over Danny's body, and the readings showed perfectly normal human vital signs. Heart rate, blood pressure, brain activity. Everything was exactly as it should be for a healthy 25-year-old human male. This is impossible, Dr. Sektar muttered, examining his own readings. No species in the galaxy can survive complete cellular death. No species can come back from brain death. This violates every law of biology we know. Maybe your laws are incomplete, Danny suggested helpfully. I mean, you guys have only met so many species, right? Maybe humans are just different. Dr. Amy Carter arrived 5 minutes later, running through the alien ship's corridors with her medical bag. She burst into the medical bay and stopped dead when she saw Danny sitting on the examination table, eating what looked like an alien protein bar. Danny, she said weakly. Hey doc, these alien food bars aren't bad. Taste kind of like chicken. Amy pulled out her medical scanner with shaking hands and ran it over Danny's body. The readings were perfect. Better than perfect, actually. Danny's body showed no signs of stress, injury, or trauma. It was as if the last 6 hours had never happened. This is impossible, Amy whispered, echoing the alien doctors. So everyone keeps saying, Danny replied. But I feel fine. Better than fine, actually. I feel great. Dr. Veltar stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his shock. Human Walsh, do you remember anything about the time when you were inactive? Danny thought for a moment. Not really. It was like sleeping, but deeper. Like I was somewhere else, but nowhere at the same time. Hard to explain. You were dead, Dr. Crixona said again. Completely dead. We examined every organ in your body. Danny looked down at himself. Well, everything seems to be where it should be. Thanks for putting me back together, I guess. Jake shook his head in amazement. Danny, you were gone for 6 hours. No heartbeat, no breathing, nothing. How are you alive? Danny shrugged. I don't know, Captain. Maybe I'm just too stubborn to die. The room fell silent as everyone stared at him. Dr. Veltar was the first to speak. Perhaps, he said slowly, we have greatly underestimated the resilience of the human species. Danny grinned. Yeah, we're tougher than we look. Now can someone please get me some real food? I'm starving. The conference room on the New Horizon had never been so crowded. Dr. Amy Carter sat next to Dr. Veltar at the main table, both of them surrounded by data screens, test results, and alien medical devices. Lieutenant Ben Clark worked at a computer terminal, analyzing readings from the stellar phenomenon. Danny sat in a corner chair, eating his third sandwich and watching everyone with amused interest. The readings are consistent across all our tests, Amy said, pointing to a chart on her screen. Danny's DNA shows activation patterns that we've never seen before. Dr. Veltar studied the data with fascination. These genetic sequences appear to be dormant in normal circumstances, what you humans call junk DNA, but the electromagnetic pulse from the stellar phenomenon somehow triggered them. It's not junk DNA, Ben said from his computer. I've been running comparisons with our historical databases. These same genetic patterns show up in every human population, but they're usually inactive. Amy pulled up another screen. Look at this. When the pulse hit Danny, his body didn't just shut down randomly. It entered a specific biological state that we've never documented before. Suspended animation, Dr. Veltar said slowly. but not like any we have seen in other species. Your friend's body essentially created a perfect preservation state, maintaining cellular integrity while appearing completely dead. Danny finished his sandwich and raised his hand like a student in class. Excuse me, but are you saying I have some kind of special power? Amy looked at him with wonder. Danny, your body survived complete cellular shutdown and then restarted itself perfectly. That should be impossible. But it's not impossible, Dr. Veltar said. We have observed it. The question is why humans evolved this capability. Ben turned from his computer. I think I know. Captain Morrison, remember the colony ship Endurance that went missing 40 years ago? Jake nodded. They were heading to the Kepler system. Lost contact during a solar storm. And the research station on Titan that stopped responding during the big meteor shower 20 years ago? Yeah, we assumed they were destroyed. Ben's eyes were bright with excitement. What if they weren't destroyed? What if the crews went into the suspended state to survive disasters? Amy sat up straight. That would explain some of the mysteries in our exploration records. Double quotes. Dr. Veltar made notes on his floating display. You are suggesting that humans have evolved the ability to survive catastrophic events by entering temporary death states. More than that, Amy said, getting excited. This could explain how humans survived the ice ages, the Great Plagues, even some of the wars in our history. When faced with impossible situations, some humans might have unconsciously triggered this survival mechanism. Danny scratched his head. So I'm like a human hibernation machine? Something like that, Amy said. But Danny, this isn't something you can control. It only activated because of the specific combination of the alien scanning device and the electromagnetic pulse. Dr. Crixina, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. We would like to test other humans, if they are willing, to see if they all carry these dormant capabilities. Jake looked thoughtful. That could be dangerous. Not if we're careful, Dr. Veltar assured him. We can scan for the genetic markers without triggering them. We simply want to understand how widespread this trait is. Over the next few hours, volunteers from the crew submitted to gentle genetic scans. The results amazed everyone. Chief Engineer Pete Garcia showed the same dormant sequences as Danny. So did Communications Officer Lisa Murphy, Lieutenant Ben Clark, and even Captain Jake Morrison himself. Every human we have tested carries these genetic sequences, Dr. Veltar announced to the gathered crew. Every single one. Does that mean we can all come back from the dead? Pete asked. Not exactly, Amy explained. The sequences are there, but they need very specific conditions to activate. The combination of events that happened to Danny was almost unique. Dr. Sektar, who had been analyzing the data from the stellar phenomenon, looked up from his work. The energy pulse that affected your friend was not random. It created what we call a temporal stasis field. Time moved differently around him for those 6 hours. So Danny wasn't really dead for 6 hours? Jake asked. From his perspective, he experienced no time at all, Dr. Sektar explained. But his body adapted to exist within the stasis field. No other species we know could have survived that. Danny yawned. So I'm special? You are all special, Dr. Veltar said, looking around at the human crew. We have studied hundreds of species across the galaxy. Most are stronger than humans, or faster, or smarter in specific ways, but none of them have this adaptability. None of them have the ability to survive the impossible. Amy looked at the data one more time. The trait seems to activate under extreme stress, when normal survival is impossible. It's like a last resort built into our genetics. A biological backup system, Ben added. When everything else fails, humans find a way to keep going. Dr. Crixana made a sound that might have been laughter. We called humans fragile. We thought you were weak because your bodies break easily and heal slowly. But now we see that this apparent weakness hides incredible strength. Jake stood up and looked out the window at the alien ship. What does this mean for relations between our species? Dr. Veltar followed his gaze. It means we have much to learn from each other. Our medicine can help humans heal faster and live longer, but human biology might teach us things about survival that we never imagined possible. Plus, Danny said with a grin, if any of you aliens ever need someone who's too stubborn to die, you know where to find us. The room filled with laughter, both human and alien. Dr. Veltar made more notes on his display. We will need to inform the Zephyrian High Command immediately. This discovery changes everything we thought we knew about human capabilities. Amy looked at Danny, who was starting on his fourth sandwich. Danny, how do you feel about being the first human to officially come back from the dead? Danny considered this while chewing. Well, Doc, I guess it beats being the first human to stay dead. Besides, someone had to show these aliens that humans don't give up easy. He took another bite. Even when we're not breathing. 3 months later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the New Harmony station, watching ships from a dozen different species dock at the massive space station. The station was a joint project between humans and the Zephyrian Medical Collective, built specifically to study the remarkable discovery that had started with Danny Walsh's impossible return from death. Jake smiled as he watched a small Earth transport ship arrive. The ship carried the latest group of volunteer researchers, both human and alien, who wanted to study what the galactic news networks had started calling the human resilience factor. Captain Morrison, a familiar voice said behind him. Jake turned to see Dr. Veltar approaching, his silver eyes bright with excitement. The alien doctor had become a good friend over the past few months. Dr. Veltar, Jake replied. How are the latest tests going? Remarkable, simply remarkable, Doctor. Veltar said, joining Jake at the window. We have now confirmed the presence of the dormant survival genetics in humans from every continent on Earth. Every single population carries the trait. And the other discoveries? Dr. Veltar's expression grew even more amazed. 3 missing human colonies have been found alive. The crew of the research station on Titan emerged from underground shelters last week, perfectly healthy after 20 years in suspended animation. The colonists on Kepler 442b survived a massive solar flare that should have killed everyone on the planet. Jake shook his head in wonder. How many more do you think are out there? We believe there may be dozens of human settlements that have survived disasters by triggering this genetic response. Your species has been using this ability for centuries without even knowing it. Through the station's communication system, a voice announced the arrival of another ship. Zephyrian medical vessel Gentle Healing, requesting permission to dock at Bay 7. That will be Dr. Kalife, Dr. Veltar explained. She is our most respected xenobiologist. She has come to see the Human Research Center herself. They walked together through the station's corridors toward the main research facility. The halls buzzed with activity as scientists from different species worked together, sharing knowledge. That had been impossible to imagine just months earlier. In the main laboratory, Danny Walsh sat in a comfortable chair while Dr. Amy Carter ran another series of tests. Danny had become something of a celebrity throughout Zephyrian space. Known as the human who conquered death, he handled the fame with his usual good humor. How are you feeling today, Danny? Amy asked as she attached monitoring devices to his arms. Same as always, Doc, ready for anything. Danny grinned at the small crowd of alien scientists watching the tests. Though I have to admit, all this attention is making me feel pretty important. Dr. Crixina, who had become the lead researcher on human biology, looked up from her data screens. The genetic markers remain stable. No signs of stress or degradation from the resurrection event. An older Zephyrian with deep blue skin stepped forward. This was Dr. Kalev the xenobiologist Dr. Veltar had mentioned. Human Walsh, I have studied life forms across the galaxy for over 200 years. What you survived should have been impossible. So everyone keeps telling me, Danny replied. But here I am. Dr. Khalif examined Amy's test results. Dr. Carter, your species has achieved something that our most advanced medical technology cannot replicate. We can heal injuries and cure diseases, but we cannot bring back the dead. Amy nodded. We're still learning about it ourselves. The ability seems to activate only when absolutely necessary for survival. It is more than survival, Dr. Khalif said thoughtfully. It is adaptation. Humans appear to be the only species that can literally evolve new survival strategies in real time. Lieutenant Ben Clark entered the laboratory carrying a data pad. Captain, Dr. Carter, you need to see this. We just received a message from Earth Command. Jake took the data pad and read the message. His eyes widened. They want to establish a permanent human presence in the Galactic Medical Alliance. They're offering to share our research in exchange for advanced healing technologies. Dr. Veltar's translator device made excited sounds. This is wonderful news. The High Command has been hoping for such an arrangement. Amy looked up from her tests. What would that mean for us? It means humans would become full partners in galactic medicine, Dr. Khalif explained. Your unique biology could help us understand survival in ways we never thought possible. In return, our healing technologies could help humans live longer, healthier lives. Danny raised his hand. Does this mean I get to keep being famous? Everyone laughed. Jake patted Danny on the shoulder. I think your fame is secure, Danny. You're the man who proved that humans are too stubborn to die. Speaking of which, Amy said, we have some interesting news about that. Dr. Veltar, tell them about the other colonies. Dr. Veltar consulted his floating display. We have received signals from 17 previously lost human settlements. They are all alive and requesting contact. It appears that the human resilience factor has been saving lives across human space for decades. 17? Jake asked in amazement. And we believe there may be more. Your species has a remarkable talent for surviving the impossible. Dr. Khalif made notes on her own device. We will need to establish research stations throughout human space to study these phenomena. This could revolutionize our understanding of biology itself. 6 months later, Danny stood in the observation lounge of the research station, watching Earth rise over the horizon. He was wearing the uniform of the Galactic Medical Alliance, with both human and Zephyrian insignia on his chest. Dr. Amy Carter joined him at the window. Any regrets about becoming the most famous human in the galaxy? Danny grinned. Not really. Though I do miss the days when dying was just something that happened to other people. Well, technically, you did die. You just didn't stay dead. True. I guess that makes me the ultimate human, right? Too stubborn to die, too curious to stay dead, and too hungry to waste time worrying about it. Amy laughed. That might be the perfect description of our entire species. Through the station's communication system, a voice announced the arrival of another ship carrying human volunteers. The research continued, and with each new discovery, it became clearer that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their intelligence, but their incredible refusal to give up. As Danny liked to tell the alien scientists who studied him, humans had turned stubbornness into a superpower, and the galaxy was better for it.